Part 1. It was a cold evening in late November when Daniel Harper locked the door of his small apartment on the outskirts of Cleveland, Ohio. The wind cut through his thin jacket, but he barely noticed. His mind was heavier than the weather. At 42, Daniel had learned how quickly life could strip a man of everything he thought was permanent. 2 years earlier, he had a steady job at a manufacturing plant, a modest home, and a marriage he believed would last forever. Now he had none of those things. The plant had shut down without warning, his savings drained faster than he imagined, and the arguments at home turned into silence, then separation, and finally divorce. That evening, Daniel was walking to the night shift job he had recently taken at a warehouse. It paid less, the hours were long, and the work was exhausting, but it was all he could find. His phone buzzed in his pocket. It was a message from the landlord, reminding him that rent was overdue again. Daniel stopped walking, closed his eyes, and took a deep breath. He had already sold his television, his old guitar, and even his wedding ring. There was nothing left to sell. At the corner near the bus stop, Daniel noticed an elderly man struggling with a grocery bag. One of the handles had torn, and oranges rolled onto the sidewalk. People passed by without slowing down, each lost in their own rush. Daniel hesitated. He was already late, and the warehouse supervisor had warned him that one more late arrival could cost him the job. Still, something made him stop. He knelt down, gathering the oranges and placing them back into the bag as carefully as he could. The old man looked at him with tired eyes and offered a weak smile. "Thank you, son," he said. "These hands aren't what they used to be." Daniel nodded. "No problem," he replied, standing up and handing him the bag. He glanced at his watch and cursed quietly. The bus headlights appeared in the distance. "Wait," the old man said, reaching into his coat pocket. "Please, take this." Daniel shook his head immediately. "I can't. I was just helping." The old man smiled again, this time more warmly. "It's not money," he said, pulling out a small card. "It's the address of a diner a few blocks from here. Go there tomorrow morning. Breakfast is on me." Daniel frowned, confused. "You don't have to do that." "I want to," the man replied gently. "Sometimes kindness comes back in ways we don't expect." Before Daniel could respond, the man turned and walked slowly down the street. The bus arrived, and Daniel boarded it, the card still in his hand. He stared at it during the entire ride, unsure why such a small gesture stirred something inside him. It had been a long time since anyone had done something kind for him without asking for anything in return. The night at the warehouse passed in a blur of lifting boxes and aching muscles. Daniel barely spoke to anyone. During his break, he took out the card again. The name of the diner was handwritten, along with a simple note, "You matter." Those two words hit him harder than he expected. He shoved the card back into his pocket, embarrassed by the tears forming in his eyes. The next morning, despite his exhaustion, Daniel decided to go to the diner. It was a small place, old-fashioned, with cracked vinyl booths and the smell of coffee filling the air. He hesitated at the door, feeling out of place, then walked in and sat down at a corner table. A waitress approached, smiling. "What can I get you, hun?" Daniel handed her the card awkwardly. "Someone told me to come here." She looked at the card and nodded knowingly. "Ah, Mr. Thompson sent you," she said. "Your breakfast is covered. What would you like?" Daniel ordered eggs, toast, and coffee, feeling both grateful and uncomfortable. When the food arrived, he ate slowly, savoring every bite. It was the best meal he had had in weeks. As he finished, he noticed the waitress placing another plate in front of him. "I didn't order this," Daniel said. She smiled. "I know. It's from the gentleman at the counter." Daniel turned and saw a middle-aged man watching him quietly. The man raised his coffee cup slightly in greeting. Confused, Daniel stood and walked over. "I think there's been a mistake," Daniel said. "I can't afford." The man interrupted him gently. "No mistake. I just wanted to help." Daniel felt a lump in his throat. "Why?" he asked. "You don't even know me." The man shrugged. "Because once, when I was at my lowest, someone did the same for me. I promised myself I'd pass it on." Daniel returned to his seat, overwhelmed. He finished the meal and left the diner with a warmth in his chest he hadn't felt in years. As he stepped outside, He realized that for the first time in a long while, the world didn't feel completely hostile. That day, Daniel went to a job interview he had nearly cancelled, convinced it would lead nowhere. He walked in with a quiet determination, carrying with him the memory of unexpected kindness. He didn't know it yet, but that small moment on a cold sidewalk had begun to change the direction of his life. Part 2. The interview room was small and brightly lit, with a single window overlooking a parking lot dusted with early winter snow. Daniel sat across from the hiring manager, his hands folded tightly in his lap. Normally, his nerves would have taken over, but something was different. The kindness he had experienced that morning stayed with him, steadying his breath and softening his fear. The manager asked questions about his work history, his skills, and the gaps in his employment. Daniel answered honestly. He didn't try to hide his struggles or dress them up with excuses. When the interview ended, the manager smiled and shook his hand. "We'll be in touch," she said. Daniel left the building without any expectations. For once, he wasn't replaying every answer in his head or criticizing himself. He walked home slowly, noticing details he usually ignored. The sound of children laughing in a nearby park, the smell of bread from a bakery, the pale winter sun breaking through the clouds. It felt as if the world had opened up just enough to let him breathe. 2 days later, Daniel received the call. He got the job. It wasn't a dream position, but it paid better, offered regular hours, and came with health benefits. Daniel sat on the edge of his bed after hanging up the phone, his hands shaking. He laughed, then cried, overwhelmed by relief. For the first time since losing his old life, he felt hope that was real and solid. Weeks passed, and Daniel settled into his new routine. With his first paycheck, he paid part of his overdue rent and bought groceries without counting every dollar twice. He returned to the diner one morning, hoping to see the elderly man who had given him the card, but he wasn't there. The waitress told him that Mr. Thompson came in only occasionally. Instead of feeling disappointed, Daniel decided to do something else. He paid for the meal of a young woman sitting alone at the next table. When the waitress told her, the woman looked around in confusion until Daniel caught her eye and smiled. She smiled back, a little shyly, and mouthed the words, "Thank you." That moment stayed with him all day. Daniel realized that kindness didn't have to be grand or expensive. Sometimes it was just a meal, a smile, or stopping to help someone pick up fallen oranges. Months later, winter gave way to spring. Daniel's life wasn't perfect, but it was stable. He had moved to a slightly better apartment and even started playing guitar again. Borrowing an old one from a coworker. One afternoon, as he left the grocery store, he saw an elderly man struggling with his bags near the entrance. For a brief second, Daniel thought of walking past. He was tired, and his feet ached. Then he remembered the night everything began to change. He walked over and offered help. The man looked up, surprised, then grateful. As Daniel carried the bags to the man's car, they talked about small things. The weather, the neighborhood, how fast time seemed to pass. When they reached the car, the man reached into his pocket. Daniel smiled and gently stopped him. "You don't have to," he said. "Really?" The old man studied his face for a moment, then nodded. "Thank you," he said simply. Daniel watched as the car pulled away, feeling a quiet sense of fulfillment. He understood now that the kindness he had never expected wasn't just something given to him, it was something meant to move through him. One evening, Daniel returned to the diner again and finally saw Mr. Thompson sitting at his usual spot. Daniel approached him, his heart pounding. "You probably don't remember me," Daniel said. Mr. Thompson looked up and smiled. "I remember you," he replied. "You're the young man from the bus stop." Daniel sat down, emotion filling his chest. He told him everything. The job, the diner, the way that one small act had changed his life. Mr. Thompson listened quietly, his eyes kind. "I didn't do anything special, Mr. Thompson said when Daniel finished. "I just saw someone who needed a reminder." Daniel nodded. "You reminded me that I mattered," he said softly. As Daniel left the diner that night, he felt a deep sense of peace. Life would still have its hardships, he knew that now. But he also knew something else. Kindness, even when unexpected, had the power to rebuild a broken heart. And as long as he could offer it to someone else, he would never truly be alone.